What is going on, everyone? This is Aaron coming at you live from just outside of Hartford, Connecticut. And today, we're going to post the second video of our 2021 NFL Draft Week schedule. This is going to be a fun one. So, if you watch previous video, you'll know that I mentioned that we're going to bring back the Players Drafted Before series just for today. And here we are. So, today's video is going to be about the players who were drafted before Aaron Rodgers. So, Aaron Rodgers is, of course, one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. But surprisingly, similar to Tom Brady, he fell during his draft. So, we're going to go back to the 2005 draft. As, like I said, we're going to discuss the players drafted before Aaron Rodgers. So, I hope you're all excited. This will be a good one. So, yesterday, like I said for the series, we looked at the trade that occurred during the 2003 NFL draft that would eventually unite the Pittsburgh Steelers with safety Troy Polamalu. The link to that trade is in the description below. The other 5 videos will be linked in the description once they are posted as well. So, anyways, on to today's video, the players drafted before Aaron Rodgers. With the 24th pick in the 2005 NFL draft, the Green Bay Packers selected California quarterback Aaron Rodgers. It surprises many NFL fans to know that Rodgers fell all the way to pick 24 in that draft. Why did this happen? Which 23 players were picked before him? Can any of those picks be justified? Let's get into it. So, as we do with the Players Draft Before series, we're going to start with the person we are talking about. So, the 24th selection, Green Bay selected quarterback Aaron Rodgers out of California. Now, Rodgers will be a first ballot Hall of Famer 5 years after he retires. There's no doubting that. Now, many fans of the NFL may be wondering how on earth Aaron Rodgers slid all the way down to pick 24. Well, that question actually puzzles many to this day. Now, Rodgers had some momentum as a potential number one pick in the draft, as his home state, San Francisco 49ers, held the top pick. The 49ers also needed a quarterback for 2005. It was a match made in heaven until it wasn't. So the 49ers decided to pass on him. We'll get to that later, as they had their eyes set on another quarterback. Now, the teams who were picking 2 to 23, none of them necessarily needed a quarterback, and it was a slightly different NFL landscape. So, quarterbacks, this is before the CBA, the recent CBA. So, if you were like a top round quarterback, you could negotiate, you could hold out for a lot of money. And a lot of teams were like, you know what? We don't need an elite quarterback today. We'll kind of wait. We'll address the quarterback spot in, round 2 or 3. We want another player to look at. So Rodgers would slide all the way down to pick 24. Now, Green Bay already had a 3-time MVP, 8-time Pro Bowl quarterback in Brett Favre, but he was 36 years old and would be turning 37 midway through the season. So the Packers wanted to stay one step ahead and pick the heir to their quarterback throne. So how did this work out? Well, Rodgers played very little as a rookie and his next 2 seasons as well. So 2005, 2007, he did basically nothing. He would appear in 3 games as a rookie, all in relief during blowouts. And then during the offseason, the Packers would change their coaching regimes as they would hire Mike McCarthy. So Rodgers went to a quarterback school, quote unquote, in which McCarthy worked with him on his hand-eye coordination, his release point, and his finger dexterity. So Rodgers also got to learn the new playbook before Brett Favre did. Now, when Rodgers was a rookie, he didn't get along with Favre. Favre kind of viewed him as, this guy's coming for my job, and Rodgers kind of viewed him as this guy's keeping me from the limelight. But with Rodgers getting all the work done, getting, involved, learning McCarthy's system, him and Favre became good friends because of this, because he would teach Favre, okay, this is what this audible means. This is what this means. And it helped Favre get a step up in the game. So Rodgers would again serve as the backup in 2006, appearing in 2 games before breaking his foot in a blowout loss. Now that ended his season. 2007 would actually start off with the rumor mill in full swing. Allegedly, the Packers were discussing flipping Rodgers to the Oakland Raiders for star wide receiver Randy Moss. This never happened, as Moss was sent to New England instead. Now, this set up Rodgers for yet another year as the backup in Green Bay. He would appear in 2 games and also threw his first career touchdown. Now, in March of 2008, Brett Favre officially announced his retirement. This meant that the Packers' starting job was Aaron Rodgers. Now, Favre would unretire, but the Packers were like, "All right, look, we're not dealing with this." So they would trade him away to the Jets, and that will be a future trade breakdown video. Right now, we're not going to worry about that. So the 2008 Packers had a rough season. They would go 6-10, but Rodgers himself proved to be a strong quarterback. He showed his toughness when he played through a severe shoulder sprain, and that won over a lot of fans. He showed a good eye as well as he ended the year with 4,038 yards, 28 touchdowns to 13 interceptions. Now, Rodgers and the Packers had a strong 2009 season, going 11-5 and making the playoffs. They would bow out in the wild card round, though. Nevertheless, Rodgers improved as a pro, throwing for 4,434 yards, 30 touchdowns, and only 7 interceptions. Now, he would have a slow start in the 2010 season, throwing 9 interceptions at the midpoint of the season. However, he began to turn his season around, but he would suffer a concussion week 14, which forced him to miss the next game. He would return for week 16 and led Green Bay to 2 must win victories. Now, they would clinch a wildcard berth once more. Rodgers would throw for 3,922 yards, 28 touchdowns, and 11 interceptions, keeping in mind he had 9 through 8 games. So Rodgers dominated in the 2009 playoffs. He would complete 90 passes out of 132 for 1,094 yards, 9 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. He would lead Green Bay to a Super Bowl victory over the Pittsburgh Steelers, 31-25. For this, he was named Super Bowl MVP. And I'm sorry, that was 2010, not 2009. Rodgers started the 2011 season quickly, and the team played very well. They actually would start the 2011 season 13-0 before falling to Kansas City in a bit of an upset. The Packers would end that season 15-1, with Rodgers starting 15 games. He was rested in the Week 17 game as they already had the 1 seed clinched. So Rodgers himself had an amazing season. He would throw for 4,643 yards, 45 touchdowns, and only 6 interceptions, while also leading the league with a 122.5 passer rating. Rodgers was named the NFL MVP for this. He also set a few NFL records, including recording a passer rating of over 100 in 13 games during the season, including 12 games in a row, both of which are, of course, records, and a passer rating of 110 or higher in 12 games, including 11 in a row. Once again, both are also records. Shockingly, Green Bay was upset in the divisional round of the playoffs by the New York Giants. Now, the team would slightly regress in 2012, but Rodgers still led the NFL in passer rating with a 108 rating. He also threw for 4,295 yards, 39 touchdowns, and only 8 interceptions. Now, the Packers were once more beaten in the divisional round, this time by the San Francisco 49ers. Rodgers would fracture his collarbone in Week 9 in a game versus the Chicago Bears, and this would end up limiting him to only 9 games on the season. He still had a solid season, throwing 17 touchdowns to 6 interceptions, but the 49ers would lose to the 49ers in the wild card round. So the team started off the 2014 season with a 1-2 record, which led to Rodgers telling the fans the infamous relax press conference. So after that game, Rodgers had a strong 4-game stretch, which saw him throw 13 touchdowns to 0 interceptions. Now, he would deal with a calf injury over the last 2 weeks of that season, but he still played well. He would finish the regular season with 4,381 yards, 38 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions. Now, the Packers would beat the Cowboys in the divisional round, and this is, of course, known for the play where Des Bryant, quote unquote, dropped the ball when replay showed he didn't really. He had the catch, and it turned into a whole controversy. But you can't take it away from the Packers. They won that game. A lot of people try to, but you can't really. But what would happen is they would end up going and playing Seattle in the NFC Championship game, but they would lose to the Seahawks in overtime. So the Rodgers' regular season saw him named MVP for the second time. Now, he had a slightly down season by his remarkably high standards in 2015. He would throw for 3,821 yards, 31 touchdowns, and 8 interceptions. Again, like I said, his standards are so high, that's a quote unquote down season for him. So the team would make the playoffs, but they would lose in the divisional round. Now, he would start off the 2016 season slowly, but he turned his season around in week 7 and never looked back. He ended the season with 4,428 yards, a league leading 40 touchdowns, and only 7 interceptions. Now, he and the Packers would make a run in the playoffs, and they would actually knock off some old foes, including the New York Giants and the Dallas Cowboys, before falling to a new foe, the Atlanta Falcons, in the NFC Championship game. Now, he would throw for 1,004 yards, 9 touchdowns, and only 2 interceptions in those 3 playoff games. Now, unfortunately, 2017 was a tough year for Rodgers. He started off the year strong, but in week 6, he took a hit and broke his collarbone once again. And this led to him going to the IR. Now, he would return in week 15, but the team was eliminated from the playoffs, which led to them playing it safe and shutting down Rodgers. He ended the year with 1,675 yards, 16 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions. Now, he threw 3 touchdowns to 3 interceptions in that week 15 game. Now, in 2018, he would hurt his knee in week 1 against the Bears, but he played through it the whole season. The team would miss the playoffs, but Rodgers still had a solid season, throwing for 4,442 yards, 25 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. Now, remarkably, only 0.335% of his passes were intercepted on the season, and that set an NFL record. Of course, with a minimum, I don't know exactly what the minimum was that you could do because you could always have those players that throw one pass and that's it for them. But still, very very strong season. Now Rodgers would start off the 2019 season strong, but he cooled off a little bit near the end of the season. He would end the year with just over 4,000 yards with 4,002, 26 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions. Now the team would fall in the NFC Championship game once more. Now some fans were beginning to question Rodgers' play during the playoffs in recent years. The team seemingly agreed, and they would select quarterback Jordan Love in the first round of the 2020 draft. Now, this led to a whole thing where, okay, the Packers might trade Rodgers, Rodgers might be gone, Rodgers might be washed up. How did Rodgers react? He was, of course, upset with the team for picking Jordan Love, but what more can he do? He just went out and proved it. So he entered 2020 with a something to prove, and he proved the doubters wrong. He had an elite season, which saw him complete 70.7% of his passes for 4,299 yards, a league leading 48 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions. Now, the Packers would lose in the NFC Championship game once more, but Rodgers, he did so good. He was named NFL MVP for a third time, and he looks as elite as ever. So that's where we stand today with Rodgers. Now, there are, of course, speculations that he might be traded after the season. He might walk after the season. We'll have to see what happens for 2021. But for right now, he's a Packer and he's going to remain a Packer. He's too good for them to just say, okay, you're gone. So, as of right now, as of April 26th, 2021, Rodgers is a 3 time NFL MVP, a 1 time Super Bowl champion, 1 time Super Bowl MVP, 3 time first team All Pro, 1 time second team All Pro, 9 time Pro Bowler, and he has led the NFL in touchdowns 2 times, passer rating 3 times, and he is a member of the 2010s All Decade team. Now, Rodgers also holds many NFL records, including but not limited to highest passer rating in a single game, in a single season, sorry, with 122.5, lowest interception ratio percentage in a single season, and that's that 0.335 interception rate. He threw 402 consecutive passes without a single interception. He has the most seasons with 40 plus total touchdowns, 5, most seasons with 40 plus passing touchdowns, 3. He also has a career record of 126, 63, and 1. He also has a completion percentage of 65.1%. 51,245 yards, 412 passing touchdowns, 89 interceptions in his career. Now, he also has a good career as a runner. He's had a good career as a rusher, as he has rushed for 3,271 yards with 31 touchdowns. Like I said, Rodgers is going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer when he retires, and that's no doubt. Now, it's mind boggling that 23 players were selected before him. Who were those players? And was your team one of the teams that passed on Aaron Rodgers? Let's get into that. So, with the first overall pick, as we mentioned, the San Francisco 49ers were on the clock, and they would choose quarterback Alex Smith from Utah. Now, nobody was really shocked. Smith was considered the safer player than Rodgers. And even from the beginning, people were like, all right, Alex Smith is good. Aaron Rodgers has the higher upside, but Smith is probably going to be the guy who has a longer career. Keyword probably. So, oddly enough, the 49ers also chose a quarterback, and of course, it was Giovanni Carmazzi over another California grown quarterback back in 2000. And that quarterback was named Tom Brady. So, yeah, the 49ers passed on a pair of California quarterbacks for a pair of non California quarterbacks, and they regretted both decisions, it's safe to say. So this video, it's not about Tom Brady. He already got his time in the spotlight. We already did this type of video for him. The link to that will be in the description below after the live stream is over. So, Smith, he had a forgettable rookie year. Now, he would deal with nagging injuries. He would appear in 9 games, starting 7 of them. He only threw for 875 yards, a single touchdown, and a very concerning 11 interceptions. Now, year 2 was better for Smith, as he nearly matched his rookie season's total yardage in only 3 games. Now, he would have an average season throwing for 2,890 yards, 16 touchdowns to 16 interceptions that year. Now, he had a rougher 2007 season as he was hurt his shoulder in week 4. This injury caused him to only play in 7 games, recording 914 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions. Now, he would re aggravate the shoulder injury during the 2008 preseason, which caused him to miss the whole 2008 season. So, in 2009, he was embroiled in a quarterback competition, but he would ultimately lose out. Alex would take over the starting role in week 8, and he did okay. He would throw 18 touchdowns to 12 interceptions. So, Smith remained the starter for the 2010 season, but while he started off good, he cooled off. Or he started off cold, I should say. Sorry. He started off cold. He eventually gets booed by the 49ers crowd. He ends up injuring his shoulder once more, and he gets demoted to the backup role. He would regain the starting role, but he was inconsistent. He started 10 games, throwing 2,370 yards, 14 touchdowns, and 10 interceptions. Now, he was named the starter once more in 2011. He responded with the best season of his career at this point. He threw for 3,144 yards, 17 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions. He was sacked a league high 44 times, though. He had a solid postseason, too, throwing for 495 yards, 5 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions over 2 games, as the 49ers would fall in the NFC Championship game. Now, Smith had a solid start to the season, but he was hurt in the 9th game of the season dealing with concussion. So when he returned, he would lose his starting job in 2012, and he ended the season with 1,737 yards, 13 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions. So he would be traded after the season. We already did a trade breakdown of this one. He was traded to the Chiefs. The link to that will also be in the description below. Now, Alex Smith was considered a good game manager. He was kind of the guy that you'd want to put out there. It's kind of like in 2021 terms, Mac Jones versus Trey Lance. Mac Jones is more of a game manager. People like him. He's older school versus Trey Lance, who's got the high floor, low floor, high ceiling type of deal. So we have no idea where Lance or Jones will go, but it's somewhat like that. So that's how the 49ers did. So with the second overall selection, the Miami Dolphins were on the clock. And the Dolphins would go with running back Ronnie Brown out of Auburn. So uh just under a week ago, we posted a player bio on Ricky Williams. So Ricky Williams was serving a suspension for 2005. So new head coach Nick Saban wanted to make a splash for the Dolphins. Now, this was Saban's first time as a head coach in the NFL, and he wanted to make an impact pick. They chose the fast, strong running back, Ronnie Brown, over other positions because they wanted to hit on that pick. Now, this was interesting. I normally wouldn't include a quote in this type of video, but Saban stated, quote, "We've actually done a study on the first round draft picks of the last 10 years and found that receivers were a lot more risky to take in the first round than running backs." End quote. Now, he also had a reason why they didn't choose a quarterback, if you're wondering. Quote, "The history of drafting quarterbacks in the first round is a 30% hit. I don't know what the odds are on the craps table in Vegas, but I know about that one. End quote. It's an interesting viewpoint for Coach Saban. Now, how did Brown pan out for Miami? Well, he certainly he proved to be an impactful person when he held out right off the bat. So yeah, there's that. So he eventually comes back, but he has a slow start to the season before really taking a start in week 3. And he has a solid year all said and done, rushing for 907 yards with 4 touchdowns. Now, he was in a timeshare with Ricky Williams for the final 12 games of that season. Now, pretty solid for him. 2006 was a big year for Brown as Ricky Williams was suspended for the entire season. Unfortunately, Ronnie Brown was not able to truly capitalize on this as as the Dolphins offense as a whole struggled. He suffered a broken hand in a November matchup that would cost him 3 games. He did end the season with a respectable 241 carries for 1,008 yards and 5 touchdowns. Now, he started off the 2007 season strong, but he would injure his knee in week 7, which ended his season. Now, he recorded 602 yards and 4 touchdowns on 119 carries, while adding 39 catches for 389 yards and a touchdown. Brown and Williams would split the starting role in 2008, but Brown made a name for himself in the Wildcat formation. Now, this was on full display during a Week 3 game versus the New England Patriots. The Wildcat formation, in case you don't know, is where the ball is snapped to a player who is not the quarterback. Now, Brown would account for 5 total touchdowns, 4 rushing and 1 passing, to go with 113 yards rushing in the upset victory for the Dolphins over the Patriots. Now, this game would actually count for the majority of his touchdowns of the season, as he would end the year with only 916 yards and 11 total touchdowns. Now, he would appear in 9 games in 2009, gaining 647 yards on the ground to go with 8 touchdowns. He started all 16 games for the first and only time in 2010, recording 734 yards, 5 touchdowns, and 242 receiving yards. Now, he would walk after the season. He made 1 Pro Bowl for the Dolphins. Not a horrible pick, but definitely not worth the second overall selection. So next we get the number 3 pick. And with the third pick, the Cleveland Browns would select wide receiver Braylon Edwards from Michigan. So Edwards would begin his career as a wide receiver 3, and he had an okay season as a rookie. He recorded 512 yards for 3 touchdowns in 10 games, 7 of which were starts, before he hurt his knee, which ended his season prematurely. Edwards would step up in his sophomore year, starting 15 out of 16 games. Now, he caught 61 passes for 884 yards and 6 touchdowns. Now, his third season saw a massive breakout for him. He started all 16 games, recorded a career high 80 catches for 1,289 yards and 16 touchdowns. Now, Edwards and the Browns would struggle heavily in 2008. While he did start all 16 games once more, he led the NFL with 23 drop passes. He caught 55 passes for 873 yards and 3 touchdowns. He started slow in 2009, catching only 10 passes for 139 yards and 0 touchdowns. Now, he ends up getting traded away after that because they just said, you know what, maybe someone will pay us for what he was. We don't think we are happy with him. So he ends up making 1 Pro Bowl for the Browns. Definitely not worth picking over Aaron Rodgers. That's for sure. That's for sure. So now we get to the 4th overall pick. And with the 4th pick, the Chicago Bears would select running back Cedric Benson out of Texas. Interestingly enough, if you watch the draft video, like if you watch the video of it, you'll see Cedric Benson's crying. Come to find out, he wasn't crying tears of joy. He was genuinely upset that the Bears had drafted him. Now, they had had contract talks beforehand because the Bears kind of felt confident that they could get him at 4, and the two sides were far apart. So Benson's kind of like, great, now I have to hold out. This is wonderful. Sure enough, he had to hold out to open training camp. Now, this slow start would dramatically hurt his rookie season. He could not take over the starting running back role. He would only manage 1 start in 9 appearances before he hurt his MCL, which ended his season. Now, he would record 67 carries for 272 yards and 0 touchdowns. Now, he would suffer a minor injury to his shoulder in the preseason of 2006, which once more stopped him from getting the starting role. spent the entire 2006 season as a backup, appearing in 15 games with 0 starts, recording 157 carries for 647 yards, but he did score 6 touchdowns. Now, Benson would gain the starting role for the 2007 season for the Bears. He started the Bears' first 11 games of the season, recording 196 carries for 674 yards and 4 touchdowns. Now, he suffered a season ending ankle injury in week 11, or week 12, I should say. Now, he was very critical of the Bears' management over his first 3 years. So he was constantly just talking trash, like, you know, oh, they didn't want to pay me what I'm worth. That's why I held out. Oh, the Bears should be giving me the ball more. The Bears should be throwing the ball to me more. Oh, it's the coach's fault. That kind of stuff. So after Benson was arrested for a DUI, the Bears just said, all right, goodbye, and they released him. He was very disappointing for Chicago. Benson later stated that, quote, no year in Chicago was I happy, end quote. Yeah, not a good pick, period. Definitely not worth a top five selection. Definitely not worth picking over Aaron Rodgers. But you got to remember, they were pretty happy with Grossman at this point. So now the 5th overall pick saw the Tampa Bay Buccaneers select running back Cadillac Williams from Auburn. Wait a second. 3 running backs drafted in the top 5? Yep. Now, wait another second. Didn't you say that Ronnie Brown went to Auburn? Yes, I did. Both quarterbacks went to Auburn. That's how different the landscape was 16 years ago. 3 running backs picked in the top 5, 2 of them went to the same school. Insanity. So, yeah. Now, Cadillac Williams started off his rookie campaign strong, but an ankle injury would slow him down in the middle of the season. He still ended the 2005 year with solid numbers, leading all rookies in rushing yards with 1,178. Now, he also would record 6 touchdowns. He won both NFL Offensive Rookie of the Year and NFL Rookie of the Year. Now, his second season was a slight disappointment as he only recorded 798 yards with a single touchdown. 2007 was worse as he suffered a season ending knee injury, torn patellar tendon in the knee, after only 4 games. Now, he recorded 208 yards, but he did score 3 touchdowns. So in 2008, he was delayed due to rehab, and he would return in November. Unfortunately, he would suffer the same injury, this time to his other knee, in the final game of 2008. Now, this very much put his career in doubt. Nobody had come back from that type of injury to both knees. And he finished 2008 with 233 yards for 4 touchdowns, with 4 touchdowns. Now, Williams put some of those doubts to rest when he had a good 2009 season. Now, he played in all 16 games for the first time in his career. Now, he didn't dominate. He only had 437 yards with 2 touchdowns. Now, he did narrowly lose out as well on Comeback Player of the Year to Tom Brady, who, of course, came back from a torn ACL that year. Now, he was pushed to a backup role in 2010, recording 361 yards with a single touchdown. He would walk after the season. Now, he was a one-time Rookie of the Year and a one-time Offensive Rookie of the Year. Still, though, not the worst pick in the world. If he could have stayed healthy, he would have been a lot. The Buccaneers would have been happier with this selection, but you can't fault a guy or a team for injuries like that. So the 6th overall selection saw the Tennessee Titans pick cornerback Adam Pacman Jones out of West Virginia. Now, Jones was without a doubt one of the top players in this draft from a talent standpoint. However, there were very big concerns with off the field problems. Now, he was on probation during the draft after getting into a fight while in college. Now, this caused Tennessee and Jones to face off in a holdout. Jones eventually signed, and he had a solid rookie year, playing both cornerback and serving as a kick punt returner. He recorded 11 passes defended, 54 tackles, and 4 tackles for loss on defense, as well as 1,399 all purpose yards and a single touchdown on returns. Jones had a breakout year in 2006, both on defense and on special teams. He recorded 63 tackles, a sack, a forced fumble, 2 fumble recoveries, and 2 passes defended, as well 12 passes defended, 12 passes defended, as well as 4 interceptions, one of which was returned for a touchdown on the defensive side of the ball. On special teams, he recorded 1,131 all purpose return yards, as well as an NFL leading 3 punt return touchdowns. While he looked great on the field, the off the field issues popped up. Since being drafted up to this point, Jones had been arrested for assault/slash vandalism. He threw a fit in a nightclub after being told to wait in line for his car at a valet service, and then he claimed that he couldn't pay for the valet service. Now, right before the 2006 season started, he spit on a woman in a nightclub. He allegedly spit on a woman in a nightclub and was arrested after refusing to leave, saying, "You know who I am," one of those situations. A similar incident would occur during the season as well. Now, the straw that broke the camel's back happened during the offseason when, at the 2007 NBA All Star game in Las Vegas, Jones was involved in another scene. He was at a nightclub and assaulted one of the dancers. He allegedly threatened a security guard's life. Later in the night, one of Jones' entourage returned with a gun and shot 3 people. Now, one was paralyzed from the waist down following the incident. Clearly, not necessarily Jones, but still. He was suspended for all of the 2007 season as they figured out what happened, if he was involved, if he ordered anything. Now, shortly after this, he was arrested for driving 79 in a 55-mile-per-hour zone, and in early 2008, he was accused of assaulting another woman. Tennessee basically said, "This guy's got talent. We're going to get rid of him." And then the criminal convicts themselves, the Dallas Cowboys, said, "Hey, we'll trade for him." So basically, Tennessee got next to nothing for him. But the talent was there. It's just, unfortunately, nothing came from it, for Tennessee at least. So now we get to the 7th overall selection, which saw the Minnesota Vikings select wide receiver Troy Williamson from South Carolina. If you're saying who, you're not alone. Now, Williamson struggled to establish himself as a rookie, recording 24 catches for 372 yards and a pair of touchdowns. His second year saw his playing time increase, but he still failed to produce much, recording 37 catches for 455 yards without a touchdown. Now, Williams had another tough year in 2007 as he would record only 18 catches for 240 yards, but hey, he added a touchdown. Now, he gets traded after the 2007 season. This trade was discussed in the Randy Moss trade breakdown. The link to that will be in the description below. Not a good pick for Minnesota, unfortunately, for the Vikings. Now, the 8th overall selection saw the Arizona Cardinals select cornerback Antrel Rolle from Miami, Florida. Now, Rolle would miss the majority of his rookie season with a knee injury. He appeared in 5 games, starting 4 of them. Now, he would actually record 28 tackles, 1 interception, and 2 passes defended. Now, Rolle had a decent second year, starting all 16 games for the Cardinals. He ended the year with 87 tackles, 11 passes defended, and 8 interception. Now, he also committed 7 pass interference penalties that year. Rolle started off the 2007 season on the bench, but he rebounded well halfway through the season. He recorded a strong 5 interceptions, returning 3 of them for touchdowns. He added 61 tackles and 10 passes defended. Rolle regained his starting gig in 2008, but was moved to a safety position. He responded decently to the move, recording an interception, 90 tackles, and 5 passes defended. Now, Rolle had a solid 2009 season, recording 4 picks, 72 tackles, 8 passes defended, and a sack and a half. Shockingly, the Cardinals decided to release Antrel Rolle after the season to avoid paying him a $4 million roster bonus. Now, he would sign elsewhere. He was a one-time Pro Bowler. Basically, the Cardinals said, "Let's be smart, let's release him, and we'll sign him to a contract at free agency," but Rolle said, "Nah," and he signed elsewhere. So, yeah, this one wasn't necessarily a bad pick. It just didn't really pan out for the team because they decided to get rid of him. So, yeah. So the 9th overall selection saw I wrote Washington football team. That's what I'm going to call them. The Washington football team select cornerback Carlos Rodgers from Auburn. So 3 Auburn players were picked in the top 10 this year. Now, Rodgers had a respectable first year in the NFL as he would appear in 12 games, 5 of which being starts. He became the starter as the season went on. Now, he would record 48 tackles, 2 forced fumbles, and 2 picks. Now, he would start 20 blah, sorry, he would start 15 games in 2006, ended the year with a 1 interception, 80 tackles, and a strong 17 passes defended. He had a strong start to the 2007 campaign as he would return an interception for his first career touchdown. Unfortunately for him and Washington, he would tear his ACL and MCL in the 7th game of the season. He recorded 25 tackles, 7 passes defended, and an interception. Now, he had a nice rebound from his injury in 2008, leading the league with passes defended with 24. He also added 56 tackles and 2 picks. Now, his play fell back a little bit in 2009 as he recorded 39 tackles, but he still had 12 passes defended. He did not record an interception, though. Rodgers did well in 2010, ending the season with 2 interceptions, 54 tackles, and 12 passes defended. After the season, he would walk. Solid, underrated player. The 10th overall pick saw the Detroit Lions select wide receiver Mike Williams, not the one that you might be thinking of that plays for the Chargers, but yeah. So Williams would have a decent rookie year for Detroit, appearing in 14 games, starting 4 of them. He caught 29 passes for 350 yards and a single touchdown. 2006 was not too kind to Williams, as he would only appear in 8 games, 2 of which were starts. This was due to performance issues, as he had dropped multiple passes. He ended that year with 8 receptions for 99 yards and a touchdown. He ends up getting traded prior to the 2007 season. All I have to say is yikes, Detroit. Yikes. The 11th overall selection saw the Dallas Cowboys select linebacker DeMarcus Ware from Troy. So he showed promise immediately as a rookie, recording a team high 8 sacks, as well as 58 tackles and 3 forced fumbles. So he's a linebacker, but he serves more as a pass rusher in the 3-4. So, yeah. Ware would improve on his sack total in 2006, recording 11 and a half. He also added his first career interception, which he actually returned for a touchdown, as well as 73 tackles, 5 forced fumbles, and a fumble recovery, which he also returned for a touchdown. Ware broke out in 2007, leading Dallas with 14 sacks, 17 tackles for loss, 84 tackles, 4 forced fumbles, and 26 quarterback hits. Now, DeMarcus Ware would improve in 2008, leading the NFL with 20 sacks and 27 tackles for loss. He also added 84 tackles and 6 forced fumbles. Now, Ware had a strong 2009 season, although his sack total dropped to 11. He recorded 57 tackles, 24 quarterback hits, and 5 forced fumbles. He did deal with a neck injury that had affected his performance that year. 2010 saw DeMarcus Ware lead the NFL in sacks for the second time with 15 and a half and tackles for a loss with 21. He also added a pair of forced fumbles and fumble recoveries, one of which was returned for a touchdown, 66 tackles, and 23 quarterback hits. DeMarcus Ware had another elite season in 2011, which saw him finish with 19 and a half sacks, a league high 26 tackles for a loss, 58 tackles, 2 forced fumbles, a fumble recovery, and 29 quarterback hits. If you're wondering why he didn't lead the NFL in sacks, Jared Allen has an answer for you. Jared Allen went off that year. Now, DeMarcus Ware became the second fastest player in NFL history to reach 100 career sacks in week 1 of the 2012 season. He ended the year with 11 and a half sacks, 56 tackles, 9 tackles for a loss, and 5 forced fumbles. The Cowboys would switch to a 4-3 defense in 2013, which pushed Ware to a defensive end role instead of the outside linebacker role that he had excelled in. Now, he would become the Cowboys' all-time sack leader in week 3 of the 2013 season. He ended the year with a somewhat disappointing by his standards 6 sacks, 40 tackles, 9 tackles for a loss, and one interception. Now, Dallas surprisingly released him after the season. He made 7 Pro Bowls, was a 4-time first team All Pro, a 3-time second team All Pro, led the NFL in sacks twice, and he's a member of the NFL 2000s All Decade team. He also has the Dallas Cowboys franchise record with 117 sacks. Now, of course, this is always going to be challenged, especially with today's game where everyone's focusing on passing the ball, so they're going to be staying back. But you can't take that away from DeMarcus Ware. He ended up going to the Super Bowl and winning the Super Bowl with the Broncos. So he's definitely a potential Hall of Famer. This is the first pick that you could really say you can justify picking him over Rodgers. Now, of course, if you're the Cowboys, you probably wish you had Aaron Rodgers, but DeMarcus Ware was a great pick for the team. The 12th overall selection saw the San Diego Chargers select linebacker Shawne Merriman from Maryland. So this is kind of a sadder story too, but still good player. He started off as a backup, but he would play lights out, which is of course his nickname. He earned a starting job in week 7, and Merriman would end up playing a key part in the Chargers knocking off the 14-0 Colts in week 16 that year, as he recorded 2 sacks, including a crucial one on 4th and goal. He ended his rookie campaign with 57 tackles, 10 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, and 5 passes defended. He was named defensive rookie of the year. Now, Merriman was suspended for 4 games for PEDs during the middle of the 2010 season, but he still recorded 17 sacks, 63 tackles, 1 interception, the only one of his career, 6 passes defended, and 4 forced fumbles. I don't know why I wrote 2010. It's 2006. So from 2005 to 2007, Merriman had recorded 39 and a half sacks in the NFL. That led the league. Very strong impact right off the bat for Shawne Merriman. Now, he would only appear in 1 game in 2008, recording 2 tackles. He ended up getting shut down due to a torn LCL PCL in his knee, which he had tried to play through. Now, 2009 saw injuries slow him down once more as a foot injury hampered his performance. He played in 14 games but recorded only 4 sacks, 36 tackles, and 1 fumble recovery. A calf injury slowed him down in 2010 as he would only play for 3 games for the Chargers, recording 6 tackles. Now, the Chargers decided to place him on the IR, and when he came back by the NFL's rules, they had to release him, so they released him. Now, it was a sad end to a very promising era for San Diego and for Shawne Merriman. He was a 3-time Pro Bowler, a 2-time first team All Pro, a 1-time second team All Pro, 1-time Defensive Rookie of the Year, and he led the NFL in sacks 1 time. Big what if. Big what if. It would have been nice if he could have stayed healthy. So, with the 13th overall selection, we saw our first offensive lineman go off the board when the New Orleans Saints would select offensive tackle Jammal Brown from Oklahoma. So, Brown started 13 games at right tackle as a rookie and was average. He would move to left tackle for the 2006 season, and he had a career year for the team, starting 15 games. And he played well. He helped to anchor an offensive line that was dominant that year. He would regress slightly in 2007, but he was still serviceable as a starter. Brown had another strong year in 2008, once more starting 15 games at left tackle. The future looked good until he tore his ACL shortly before the 2009 season. This injury, coupled with the standout play of Jermon Bushrod, led to Brown being traded away. Now, for the Saints, he was a 2-time Pro Bowler, a 1-time first team All Pro, and he was, of course, a starter on their Super Bowl squad. So the 14th overall selection saw the Carolina Panthers select linebacker Thomas Davis from Georgia. So he would begin his NFL career as a strong safety. Now, he spent most of his rookie season as a backup, starting 1 game, but he did good. He played all 16 games, ended the year with 40 tackles, 1.5 sacks, and two forced fumbles. Now, he would move back to outside linebacker in 2006, where he became a starter. He started all 14 games in which he appeared in, recording 90 tackles, a sack and a half, and 5 passes defended. Davis started all 16 games for the first time in 2007, and he ended the year with 87 tackles, 3 sacks, 12 tackles for loss, 1 interception, and 5 passes defended. Davis improved in 2008, ending the year with 114 tackles, 3.5 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, and a fumble recovery. Now, he would start off the 2009 season strong, recording 61 tackles, 2 interceptions, 6 passes defended, and a sack and a half before he tore his ACL in the 7th game. Now, he would re-tear his ACL in minicamp prior to 2010, which put an end to his season before it could begin. Now, after 2 starts in 2011, which saw Davis make 12 tackles, he would tear that same ACL for a 3rd time. Now, this really put his career in jeopardy as no professional athlete has ever returned from 3 ACL tears until Thomas Davis did it. He became the first player to do it when he took the field in week 1, albeit as a backup. Now, he would regain the starting role in week 5, and he ended the year with a very respectable 105 tackles, 2 forced fumbles, and an interception. Davis had a strong 2013 season, which saw him start all 16 games while recording a career high 123 tackles and 13 tackles for a loss, as well as a pair of picks and 4 sacks. He had a very strong 2014 season, helping to anchor one of the best defenses in the NFL. He would record 100 tackles, 2.5 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, and a fumble recovery. 2015 was a huge year for Davis, as he recorded a career high 4 interceptions, 4 forced fumbles, and 5.5 sacks. All 3 of those were career highs, as well as 105 tackles. Now, Thomas Davis and Luke Kuechly would make for one terrifying linebacker duo. Davis once more played at an elite level in 2016, recording 106 tackles, 2.5 sacks, 3 interceptions, and 2 fumble recoveries, one of which was returned for his first and only career touchdown. Now, Davis had a good 2017, recording 76 tackles and 2.5 sacks. He would miss one game due to suspension after a helmet to helmet hit. Davis was suspended for the first 4 games of 2018, which slowed him down. He ended the year with only 79 tackles and forced two fumble recoveries. He would walk after the year. Now, he was a one-time first-team All-Pro, one-time second-team All-Pro, three-time Pro Bowler, and one-time Walter Payton Man of the Year. So now we get some more fun. The 15th overall selection saw the Kansas City Chiefs select linebacker Derrick Johnson from Texas. Now, Johnson, he would immediately step in as a starter, and he rewarded Kansas City with 96 tackles, 2 sacks, and 5 passes defended. He had a solid second season, recording 76 tackles and a career high 4.5 sacks over 13 games. He missed 3 games due to an ankle injury that year. 2007 was even better for Johnson as he made 94 tackles and recorded 4 sacks, 3 forced fumbles, and added a pair of interceptions. He slightly regressed in 2008, recording 86 tackles, 1.5 sacks, 4 forced fumbles, and an interception over 14 games. Johnson was moved to a backup role in 2009. Now the Chiefs had changed to a 3-4 scheme, and this moved him from an outside linebacker to an inside linebacker. He only recorded 37 tackles and a sack, but he did record a career high 3 interceptions, 2 of which were returned for touchdowns. Johnson had a strong 2010 season, regaining his starting job. Now, once more, he rewarded the Kansas City Chiefs with 122 tackles, 1 sack, and 1 interception, which he returned for a touchdown, as well as 16 passes defended and 3 forced fumbles. Derrick Johnson broke out in 2011, making his name known throughout the NFL. He recorded 131 tackles, 2 interceptions, 9 passes defended, a forced fumble, a fumble recovery, 2 sacks, and 10 tackles for loss. Other than the stats, he also improved his coverage dramatically. He kept his tackle numbers up in 2012, recording 124, while also forcing a career high 4 fumbles, but his coverage stats fell and he did not record any interceptions with only 4 passes defended in 2012. He had a nice 2013 season, recording 107 tackles, 2 interceptions, 2 fumble recoveries, and a career high 4.5 sacks. Tied for career high 4.5 sacks. So, yeah, 2014 was a lost season as Johnson would tear his Achilles in week 1. I know the feeling of a slightly hurt Achilles, so I can't imagine what a torn Achilles would feel like. So, Johnson had a strong rebound season in 2015 as he started all 16 games for Kansas City. He ended the year with 116 tackles, 2 interceptions, 4 sacks, and 2 forced fumbles. Johnson had a decent 2016 season, but he tore his Achilles for the second time in a Week 14 game. I re-aggravated a slightly torn Achilles, and it stinks, so I can't imagine. He ended the year with 90 tackles, 1 interception, which he returned for a touchdown, and a sack. Now, the Achilles injury zapped some of his quickness in 2017, as he would only record 71 tackles and 7 passes defended. He was released after the season. He was a 4-time Pro Bowler, a 1-time first team All Pro, and a 1-time second team All Pro. So we're kind of getting a theme here. The linebackers that were picked early on in 2005 have had solid careers. Like you could make a case for any of the three of them so far. Merriman, Johnson, and Merriman, Johnson, Davis, and Ware. So four of them. You can make a case for any of them. Now I will straight up say DeMarcus Ware is the only player at this point who I would be okay with picking over Rodgers, but I still would rather have Rodgers. Anyway, the 16th overall pick saw the Houston Texans select defensive tackle Travis Johnson from Florida State. Now, Johnson spent most of his rookie season as a backup, recording 26 tackles and a single sack over 15 start games, three of which were starts. He became a starter in 2006, but an injury would cut his season short midway through. He recorded only 14 tackles with over 8 starts in 2006. 2007 was not too kind to Johnson either. He started 13 games, recording 41 tackles and an interception. He was dealing with a nagging injury throughout the season, though. Now, 2008 saw him start 14 games, recording 30 tackles with a sack. He would leave after the season. Now, the 17th overall pick saw the Cincinnati Bengals select linebacker David Pollack. So, David Pollack would begin his rookie season as a backup, but he became a starter by week 6. He would suffer a minor knee injury, which pushed him back into a backup role. Now, he would record 28 tackles and 4.5 sacks over 14 games. Unfortunately, Polak would suffer a career ending back injury, broken vertebrae, early in his second season. So he was a solid player, just bad injury. Now, the 18th overall pick saw the Minnesota Vikings back on the clock for the second time select defensive end Erasmus James from Wisconsin. James had a decent rookie season, starting 9 games while appearing in 15. He recorded 4 sacks and 29 tackles. Now, unfortunately, injuries really limited James over his next 2 years, as he would only appear in 8 games while only starting 3 of them over those 2 seasons. He recorded 9 tackles and a sack. Now, after 2007, the Vikings traded him for basically nothing. Vikings went 0 for 2. That's all I got to say. Now, the 19th overall selection saw the St. Louis Rams select offensive tackle Alex Barron from Florida State. So he would begin his career as a right tackle, where he started as the backup, but he would eventually win the starting role shortly into the year. He had an average year starting 11 games. He improved slightly in 2006, starting all 16 games. Barron would move to left tackle, his natural position, in 2007 after future Hall of Famer Orlando Pace got hurt in week 1. He struggled to adjust to the role. Barron would move back to his right tackle role in 2008, but he would regress. Now he moved once more to left tackle for 2009, but he underachieved dramatically, committing way too many penalties and allowing a decent amount of sacks. He gets traded prior to the 2010 season. So now we get to the 20th pick, where the Dallas Cowboys made their second pick, and they would select defensive end Marcus Spears from LSU. So Spears would suffer 3 injuries in training camp that held him to a reserve role through the start of his rookie year, but he would eventually become the starter midway through the year. He ended the season with 31 tackles and a sack and a half. Spears would become a full-time starter in 2006, ending the year with 45 tackles, a sack, and 3 passes defended. Spears' tackles declined in 2007 as he recorded only 30, but he did add 2 sacks and 2 forced fumbles. He had a similar following season in 2008, recording 35 tackles, 1 forced fumble, and 1 sack. Spears had a decent year in 2009 as he recorded 25 tackles, 2.5 sacks, and a pass defended. Now, his 2010 season ended after only 8 games due to a calf injury, which saw him record only 19 tackles. Spears had a pair of quiet years in 2011 and 2012 where he would be pushed into a reserve role. He recorded 41 tackles and 2 sacks over those 2 seasons. Now, he gets released after 2012. Now, while the stats might not have seemed great, Spears made a positive impact for the Cowboys. He was a great locker room presence, and he took on many blockers so the outside linebackers, players like DeMarcus Ware, for example, could rush the passer. So, while the numbers aren't great, he was a good pick for the Cowboys. The 21st overall selection saw the Jacksonville Jaguars select wide receiver Matt Jones from Arkansas. Now, Jones was a collegiate quarterback, and many people were surprised that Jacksonville picked him this early, especially as a wide receiver, as he had not played wide receiver full time as professional, including high school or college. So people were like, what? Why would you take a It's Jacksonville. What do you expect? So he was a reserve rookie. He was a reserve receiver as a rookie, and he ended the year with 36 catches for 432 yards and 5 touchdowns. Now, he would improve in 2006, recording 41 catches for 643 yards and 4 touchdowns. 2007 was an off year for Matt Jones, as he would record 25 catches for 317 yards and 4 touchdowns. Jones became a starter in 2008, and he played well, recording 65 catches for 761 yards but only 2 touchdowns over 12 games. Now, he gets suspended for drug charges, and during the offseason, he would be arrested for violating a plea agreement. Due to this, the Jaguars said goodbye and released him. The 22nd pick saw the Baltimore Ravens select wide receiver Mark Clayton from Oklahoma. So Clayton started off his rookie season hampered by injuries, but he ended up having a solid season, recording 44 catches for 471 yards and a pair of touchdowns. Now, his sophomore season saw him significantly improve as he would record career highs in catches with 67, yards with 939, and touchdowns with 5. Injuries once more got to him in 2007 as he would end the year with 48 catches for 531 yards without a single touchdown. 2008 was a mixed year for Clayton. He had 41 catches for 695 yards and 3 touchdowns, while also adding a touchdown via air as he threw for one. However, he really seemed to disappear for games at a time. So most of those yardage and situations that he had were like he'd get 100 yards in a game and then he would just record 30 yards for the next 3 games combined. So, yeah, Clayton had a quiet 2009 season, which saw him catch 34 passes for 480 yards and 2 touchdowns. He ended up getting traded after that season. So, lastly, we have the Oakland Raiders with the 23rd pick, and they would select cornerback Fabian Washington from Nebraska. So, Washington would start 11 of 16 games in his rookie year, in which he would record 43 tackles for in 5 passes defended. He had a mini breakout in 2006 as he recorded a solid 4 interceptions, 15 passes defended, and 40 tackles across 14 starts. Now, Oakland moved him to a reserve role in 2006 as he recorded a solid 4 interceptions, 15 passes defended, and 40 tackles in 14 starts. Sorry, he was okay, but he recorded 40 tackles, 1 interception, 8 passes defended. Now, he would be traded after the 2007 season came to an end. Now, this trade was actually discussed as a minor part of the John Gruden trade. That will be linked below. So, there you have it. Those are the 23 players that were picked before Aaron Rodgers, as well as Aaron Rodgers' his stats himself. So, yeah, with the 2021 draft coming up in only 3 days, you have to look back at this draft and wonder how Rodgers felt all the way back to 24. He was the second quarterback picked at pick 24. By comparison, it seems very likely that the top 3 picks will be quarterbacks, with a solid chance that the 4th pick held by Atlanta will either be used on a quarterback or traded to a quarterback needy team. So it's conceivably possible that we can have up to 6 quarterbacks picked in the top 24 this year. It just goes to show you how much the league has changed across 16 years. That's it. Now, the real question is, did your team choose a player over Aaron Rodgers? If so, are you happy with the selection or no? I mean, if you're a Cowboys fan, you guys picked 2 players before Rodgers, but DeMarcus Ware is the only guy who I could really justify being okay over Rodgers. That's it. But I would still rather have Rodgers, but at least if you needed a linebacker, DeMarcus Ware is great. So, if so, did that player that your team picked at least pan out? Again, if you're a Cowboys fan, yes. If you're a Vikings fan or a Lions fan, no. Or even a Bears fan. So, yeah, thank you for watching. Make sure to check out our other videos involving in this NFL draft week. Now, by Saturday, May 1st, all videos will be linked below. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know it was a longer video, but have a great rest of your day. And again, please make sure to check the other NFL draft videos. Have a good one.